Welcome back in, TFA fam. It's your boy, Kev, back again with another video. Today, we're going to be talking about Antonio Gibson, one of my favorite running backs to draft in this upcoming fantasy season, and why I think that he doesn't just have top 10 upside, but top 5 upside. And we're going to get into that right now. Let's go. Welcome back in. I appreciate everybody checking out the video. Before we get started, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button for future content. We are going to be trying to do 100 videos, 100 player profiles in about 2 months. Really? I mean, because that's about what we got now. We're almost to July, a couple more days left, and it is July. And so today we're going to be starting off with one of the more polarizing players right now among fantasy circles, and that is Antonio Gibson. And so let's just go ahead and jump right into it, shall we? So first things first, let's talk about Antonio Gibson in his 2020 season, his rookie season, and kind of how he performed. If you look at it, he only received 47% of the opportunities last year, and he finishes an RB1. He finishes RB12. He was one of 2 running backs that had less than 50% of the opportunities in a backfield that finished an RB1. The other one was Kareem Hunt, who, as we know, got a large chunk of the season to himself because of the Nick Chubb injury. But Antonio Gibson averaged about 12 carries per game, which was 18th among all running backs. He did have 44 targets, which averaged about 3 targets per game, 31 red zone touches, which was 22nd, and 8% target share. He had about 795 rushing yards, 290 receiving yards, 36 receptions. He did have 11 touchdowns, which really kind of boosted his production up past some of these other guys, which likely led to him being a top 12 running back last year. 14.4 fantasy points per game. In terms of some of the efficiency stuff, he was pretty efficient in the opportunities that he got. 38th in routes run. He was 9th in yards per route run. 13th in evaded tackles, 16th in yards created, and 15th in yards created per touch. If you look at him last year, coming into last year, he was a 3rd-round pick for the Washington football team. He was a guy that I think a lot of people liked in the industry because of that high upside that he had, that high ceiling, because this guy's an athletic monster, but he just didn't really have much opportunity at Memphis. He was used much more as a wide receiver at Memphis. He only had 33 rushing attempts his last year at Memphis, but he had 38 receptions for 735 yards. He was used much more as a wide receiver, so when he came to the league, there was this thought that he probably was going to be much more of a 3rd down back to start out, get some opportunities as a ball carrier, but he was likely going to be more of a pass catcher because of how he was used in Memphis. We knew that he was a great pass catcher coming out. However, that's just not how he was used. He was used much more as that goal line in between the tackles rusher, early down grinder that we see from a lot of guys, which was kind of surprising because just that's not how his profile paints. We saw J.D. McKissic get most of the opportunities, and to be honest with you, it wasn't even close. Antonio Gibson last year was 78th in pass blocking snaps to J.D. McKissic, which was 11th. J.D. McKissic had almost 200 snaps on 3rd down. Antonio Gibson had 20. While some people are using that as a criticism against him this year and think that things are going to stay the same, I say that is absolutely ludicrous. One, Antonio Gibson is 6 foot, 230 pounds. Okay, he is more than capable of being a 3-down running back. We know that he is a excellent pass catcher out of the backfield. The one area he probably needed to clean up and really work on, because he was definitely going to be raw at it, was pass blocking, right? He was not asked to do that in college, and he definitely wasn't asked to do it because he very rarely played the running back position in college. So it made sense that the fact that they kind of held him away from that, only really utilized him on 1st and 2nd down, because that was just not an area that he really excelled at. And so that was something he definitely needed to work on. But let's be honest. Do you think 190-pound J.D. McKissic is going to stand in the way of Antonio Gibson from seizing a larger workload in this backfield? Absolutely not. Here's some other things. So you look at J.D. McKissic last year. He played 60% of the snaps. He had 38% of the opportunities. He also had 75 slot snaps, which was the most among all running backs. 357 routes run, 110 targets, which was most among all running backs. 80 receptions was 2nd, 7th in yards per route run, and he had a 19% target share, which is only behind Alvin Kamara. Now, listen, I'm here to tell you, he's not going to do that again. He is not going to get 110 targets. He is not going to have 80 receptions. Those things are just not going to happen, and it's for a couple of different reasons. One, they had to have a different quarterback now. They had Alex Smith for a decent amount of last year, which we know is Mr. Checkdown. He's been that. He did that in Washington. That's what he did when he was in Kansas City. That's what he did in San Francisco. That's just his MO. That's what he does. He takes the safe route, and he is not somebody that is really going to push the ball downfield. And he was coming off a major injury, one that nobody thought he probably was ever going to play again. So that's not surprising whatsoever that they use J.D. McKissic, who is a little bit more competent, has more experience at doing some of those things, right? Not to mention the fact that J.D. McKissic was a wide receiver coming out when he came out from college, right? And so, however, they also didn't have anybody else, right? And now this year, you look at it, they signed Curtis Samuel. They drafted Diami Brown. They have pass catchers now, something they didn't have last year. All they had was Terry McLaurin and Logan Thomas. So that's why you see J.D. McKissic have 75 slot snaps last year. They moved him all around the backfield, or they moved him all around the field because they didn't have anybody else to utilize. And so that's just not going to happen this year. And so people that think that J.D. McKissic is going to play 60% of the snaps this year or have 38% of the opportunities is crazy. It's just not going to happen. Yes, he's going to have a role, but it is not going to be nearly as big as it was last year. Antonio Gibson, by all accounts, now you can take this with a grain of salt, but has looked fantastic in minicamp and OTAs, and said that he was cutting well, which just bodes well for the injury that he suffered last year. He suffered a turf toe injury. And, I am not a doctor, but just the things that I've read on the internet have stated that, with rest, that he can get back to 100%. It sounds like that he's pretty close to that right now with the way he looks right now. And we still have a couple more months until training camp, or about a month left until training camp gets going. And so as long as he doesn't suffer any setbacks, he's going to be good to go for the start of the season. And this dude is going to absolutely eat in 2021. Like I already mentioned, this offense is going to be much more upgraded now with Ryan Fitzpatrick at quarterback, with adding Curtis Samuel and who they drafted. And not to mention the improvement they made along the offensive line, but drafted Samuel Cosmi, who a lot of people thought had potential to be a first-round pick. They were able to get him in the second round. And so that bodes well for an offensive line that was already kind of middle of the road last year. Wasn't fantastic, but wasn't terrible either. Excelled at certain areas. So I think things are lining for Antonio Gibson to not just be a top 10, but a top 5 running back, and could end up being somewhat of a league winner who is being drafted right now, late second, early, mid to late second right now, and among fantasy drafts in terms of underdog fantasy right now, which is a good indicator of what his ADP is going to look like. One of the main things that you should take away from this is, one, he did all of this in 14 games last year. He did this with only 47% of the opportunities, and he still finished as an RB1 last year. There's zero reason to believe that he is not going to finish with probably 60 to 65% of the opportunities. I think a fair projection would probably get him up to around 70 targets, which isn't that crazy considering we adding another game on top of it. And like I said, he's just going to have a larger workload. He is dynamic. He is dynamic. He is a running back that they are going to want to feed. And so you should not be worried about it. I know that when it comes to injuries with running backs, there is this thought process that we should avoid these guys. But listen, every running back can get hurt. That's the thing about running backs. It is the highest probability of any position to get hurt is the running back position. Christian McCaffrey only played 3 games last year. Every single year, running backs get hurt. It's what happens. We cannot sit here and go through a fantasy draft and be worried about injuries, especially with these early round picks, okay? I am shooting for absolutely ceiling, and Antonio Gibson can absolutely bring that in spades. So draft Antonio Gibson with confidence. Get out of here with the J.D. McKissic talk. Antonio Gibson's season is now. Let's go. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button for future content. I appreciate everybody checking out. And let us know who you want us to cover next, because like I said, we're going to be doing a lot of these videos. We're going to try to hit the top 100 in about the next 60 days or so. And so you're going to see a lot of these. We're going to be banging them out. Me and the boys, we're going to be really trying to get these out for everybody. I appreciate everybody checking it out. Hit that like and subscribe button. I really appreciate it, because we are going to win some championships this year, boys and girls. Let's go.